Welcome to Blueprint for Health and Healing, Reversing Disease from its Foundation. Hi, I'm Dr. John Clark, and today's topic is vigorous, healthy, natural blood pressure. What happens if you are low on water? Well, you have a hard time getting blood to the top of your head. And the top of your head starts to complain, figuratively speaking. And when you can't get blood to the top of your head, then the body has to do things to get it up there. I mean, it's like being low on oil in your car and the oil pressure is falling apart. But your body has all kinds of compensatory mechanisms whereby it can take care of that. What are they? Well, first of all the blood vessels in your arms and legs tighten up. It's like squeezing a toothpaste tube. And then your heart starts going a little faster. And then you go to your doctor and he takes your blood pressure and he says, oh, you're starting to get high blood pressure. Maybe we should put you on a blood pressure medication. What do they start with? Something they call a water pill. What's a water pill? Well, it makes you dump more water. It's a diuretic. But I thought you had high blood pressure because you were low on water. Yeah. So why are you taking a water pill? Well, that's the protocol. That's what they're told to do. That's part of the practice management guidelines. And so you take a water pill in hopes that a simple medicine will fix your high blood pressure. You go home and the blood vessels tighten up a little more in your legs and the heart beats a little faster. And you go back to your doctor in a few weeks and he checks your blood pressure. Oh, you still have high blood pressure. I better give you another medication because we can't have you having a stroke or kidney failure or anything like that. So the next pill, what is it? Usually a beta blocker. What's that do? It slows down that heart that's going so fast because you didn't drink any water and because you've been peeing too much with a diuretic. Oh. So you go home on 2 blood pressure medications. And you can't make the heart go any faster, so you tighten the blood vessels up tighter to push that blood to the top of your head. It's not making it to the top of the head because you don't have enough fluid in your system. All right. You go back to your doctor and checks the blood pressure again. Oh, I'm sorry to see you still have high blood pressure. I have lots of patients on 3 blood pressure medications. What's the next one? A calcium channel blocker. What's that do? Relaxes all those blood vessels that we're tightening up. Wow. I'm not going to say all high blood pressure is due to dehydration, but I was giving this lecture in one of our big series, and a lady on the front row, she says, "That's it!" I knew she had something, and I said, What do you mean that's it? Her name was Nancy. We'll call her Nancy. Oh, my mom called me last week. She says, "Nancy, my blood pressure is 200 over 150. I'm thinking I should call the ambulance and go to the emergency room." Nancy says, Mom, take it easy. Just get 3 big glasses of water and drink them. And when I come over, I'll check your blood pressure. Okay. 45 minutes later, Nancy came to the house. Mom had drunken her 3 glasses of water, and when her blood pressure was checked, it was 120 over 80. Wow, I said, boy, you're right. Now, blood pressure can also be treated with natural remedies like drinking water, right? And a lot of people have it around the world. It's pretty popular. There's a lot of medication given out for it. We're going to talk about natural blood pressure control. I used to treat patients fairly conventionally, and if they had high blood pressure, I would, probably get involved in medication that would fix it. Now I do lifestyle medicine, means we find out why the person had the disease and then help them to make good choices to fix it by reversing what they did to cause it. Now, blood pressure is there to help distribute the blood throughout your body. Have you ever heard it said that perfect health is dependent on perfect circulation? Well, it is. I mean, you can understand if there's no circulation. then there's no life. But many people don't realize that when there's only partial circulation, that there's also partial life or disease. And so every part of your body needs good tissue oxygenation. That's what the blood is largely for. At least that's one of its big purposes. That's why it goes to the lungs, comes back from the lungs loaded with oxygen to be pumped to the rest of your body. But let's say, the top of your head is having trouble getting enough oxygen. It'll start sending that message to everything to tighten up the blood vessels, make the heart go faster. Anywhere in your body, be it the kidneys, be it the heart, be it the lungs, be it wherever it's having trouble getting blood, if it is getting starved for oxygen, it will send a signal and your blood pressure will go up. So blood pressure is not a sign that you're deficient in some pill. It's a sign maybe you need to do something about the circulation problem. And in that whole discussion, you can be sure we need to have the blood flowing freely. If you have tight bands around the waist, blood won't flow freely. If you have tight bands around the chest, you won't be able to breathe as fully, and your blood won't flow freely. If you have tight bands around your ankles, like the tops of your socks, then the blood isn't going to go to your feet very well. So other things that will block blood flow is plaque in your heart. We'll get to these a little more. The other thing that will raise your blood pressure is if you are really excited. I mean your psychological state. And this is an interesting thing because people don't realize the connection between the mind and the body all the time. A lot of stuff originates in the mind that affects the body. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about dietary choices. We'll talk about lifestyle habits and psychological well-being. Let's start with dietary choices that would be unfavorable to blood pressure. In other words, if you do these things, you'll raise your blood pressure. I'll put them in 4 categories. Let's start with fats. Now, once you start using refined fats, bottled fats, fats that aren't in their original natural environment, such as fats in avocados and nuts, but fats coming from bottled oils, as I have pictured here, then it causes the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood to drop. Well, that means you're going to have more blood flowing in order to get the oxygen to the tissues. What's more, it thickens the blood. It makes the blood harder to pump. If it's harder to pump, that's going to make your blood pressure go up. It's going to make your heart work harder. Your heart's going to get big muscles. They don't like that. They have certain nasty names for people's hearts who have developed big muscles where they don't need them. And there goes your blood pressure. The other thing that these oils often do is raise inflammation in the body. Now, when you get inflammation in a sore joint, like if you hurt your ankle, it swells. Well, if you have inflammation in blood vessels, they swell too, but they can't swell out, they swell in. And so the amount of blood that goes through gets less and less and less as they swell in with this inflammation. And you've got it. It's going to take more pumping, more pressure to get blood through a smaller blood vessel. And the other things that happen is that people with a lot of oil in their diet are more likely to have cardiovascular disease that affects both the heart and the brain. You can have more strokes and more heart attacks. That's not a good thing. So that's the story on fats. Let's talk about sugar. Sugars. What do sugars do? Well, one of the things they do is they compromise kidney function. So what's the importance of that? Well, just like too little fluid in your vascular system will make your blood vessels tighten up and your heart go fast, if you have too much fluid in your vascular system, it'll push too much blood into the heart to begin with, and then too much blood will come out, and your blood pressure goes up. So if your kidney function is failing, then you won't get rid of excess fluids, and you'll have a higher preload on the heart and a higher postload. The other thing that sugar does is it causes retention of salt. Excuse me. And if you retain salt, you tend to retain fluid. And so it gives you increased salt sensitivity. Now, just like with oils, Sugar raises inflammation, and it increases your likelihood to gain weight, and it causes insulin resistance. We cover that in detail in our diabetes talk that you can find on this channel. The other thing that happens with sugar is it actually makes your heart rate go up because it increases the oxygen demand of your heart muscle, your myocardium. And you don't want to increase the oxygen demand of your myocardium, because if you're already on the edge of being low on oxygen or ischemic in your heart, you eat sugar, you're going to end up with heart pains. Now, speaking of sugar causing retention of sodium, salt in and of itself, taken as salt, or salty foods, is also known to be and well studied to be a cause of high blood pressure. First of all, because it causes you to retain more fluid, but there's another reason that many people don't realize that gives salt a hypertensive effect, and that is it causes inflammation inside the walls of the blood vessel. If you think of a blood vessel as a round tube, and then there's a wall, it's got 3 layers. The inside layer gets all inflamed when you take too much salt. The inside layer then goes through a process of first inflammation and then scarring. We call this hardening of the arteries. It's harder to pump blood through a tube that's very hard, very stiff, very rigid, as opposed to a normal elastic blood vessel that sort of bounces with every beat of the heart. And so you end up with more and more permanent high blood pressure from eating too much salt. Lastly, our 4th group, let's talk about animal products, meats in particular. If you eat animal products such as meat, eggs, or dairy, you are 6 times, not 6%, 6 times more likely to get high blood pressure. Wow. And so this is very serious. On the other hand, if you choose to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, they make it so that the body can relax your blood vessels more easily. It increases your body's ability to respond to environmental changes. The little messenger in your blood that is responsible for making your blood vessels relax is nitric oxide. When you eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, your blood vessels are more responsive to nitric oxide. And let's just look at this from a famous study called Adventist Health Study 2. And they looked at different diets and what would be the result of eating those diets on your risk of hypertension, or otherwise known as high blood pressure. When they looked at the carnivores, the people that ate largely meat, I mean, that was their first choice. These people might not even be able to identify a vegetable. Anyway, they had a very high risk of high blood pressure. We'll use them as the standard here at 1. And then they had omnivores, people who eat both meat and vegetables and fruits. Those people had basically a 23% lower risk of hypertension. Then there were a group of people whose only meat was fish. They ate their fruits and vegetables otherwise, and they reduced their risk of hypertension by 38%. Then there were those who claimed to be vegetarians. They still drank milk, still ate eggs, and they had a better result yet with a 55% drop in the risk of hypertension. The last group studied in this study were the plant-based only vegetarians. We might call them vegans, at least some people might. And when they ate this kind of diet, their risk of high blood pressure went down by 75%. So what you do is you decide what risk you're willing to entertain, choose the diet that will achieve that risk for you, and expect that kind of results. Well, let's look at fruits and vegetables in particular. Let's just see what we have here that will make a difference, why it makes a difference. Let's start with vegetables. Of the vegetable family, green leafy vegetables are very helpful at lowering blood pressure. They're high in magnesium, they're high in potassium. Both those will lower your blood pressure. And so they've been shown to be a beneficial food when you have high blood pressure. Spinach, which would really be amongst those green leafies, but we single it out because it's high in folate, and folate as a natural occurring phytochemical is very good at lowering blood pressure. A common natural remedy for high blood pressure is celery, eating it or making it into juice and drinking it. There's something about that particular vegetable that's very good at lowering blood pressure. Then there's carrots and ginger and broccoli. Those actually relax the blood vessels. And so we're talking good food here that will help you with your blood pressure. Beets and basil have a similar story. Garlic, supplement or whole, has definitely been used for lowering blood pressure and works. I have a very interesting study that showed that onions, particularly raw as opposed to cooked, had a very good effect on high blood pressure. That's for vegetables. Vegetables are your root, your stem, or your leaf, or your flower. Now, if we look at fruit, it's actually a little more effective at lowering blood pressure. Some of the top ones are eggplant and tomatoes. Yes, the nightshades. And they work. They work well. There's lycopene in the tomatoes that's very healthy for your blood vessels. Then there's squash. Pumpkin is really a squash, but squash and pumpkin, and they're high in potassium and low in sodium. And so they help lower blood pressure. Cranberry, it actually has the effect like a popular blood pressure pill called an ACE inhibitor, and it works to lower blood pressure. A little sour, but sort of seasonal, but some places will sell them to you frozen, or there's also cranberry juice and cranberry pills. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? Well, as far as blood pressure goes, it does. Pomegranate's also very good. Grapefruit. Grapefruit is sort of a superfood for vascular issues. If I have anybody dealing with high blood pressure or heart disease or post-stroke, they're having trouble, or they're wanting to thin their blood or keep it flowing freely, I suggest grapefruit. It protects the arteries. It has a bit of a diuretic effect. It improves the blood flow by improving its fluidity. And then there's olives. We're talking the black olives. They have a calcium channel blocker effect, and they help nitric oxide to be more effective on vasodilation. So there's a bunch of good foods from the fruits and vegetables. You're thinking, well, I don't just eat fruits and vegetables. How about grains? Well, grains, they make a difference too. Here we have a slide on grains. And the difference in the grains that most people consume is whether they are refined or whether they are whole. In other words, nothing was stolen from them. If you're eating largely refined grains, your risk of hypertension goes up by 69%. On the other hand, if you use whole grains, sort of pictured here with the whole wheat bread or whole grain bread, you reduce your risk by 23%. So really, if you switch, the total between 69 and 23 is going to be 92%. So you lower your risk of hypertension by 92% by switching from refined grains, white flour products, to whole grain products. Now, fascinating to know that you do not have to have blood pressure that goes up with time. I'm talking like when you get old, it isn't just a given thing that you're going to have high blood pressure. Doesn't have to be. In countries where the people still live back in the jungles and in the bush, where they still eat the original diet of their ancestors, where they don't even know what a processed food is, their blood pressure doesn't go up with time, their cholesterol doesn't go up with time, their risk of disease doesn't go up with time. We can learn some lessons from those guys. I'm not necessarily saying you have to move out to the jungle, but you could eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, I want to call your attention to another risk for high blood pressure, and that is having too many blood vessels. Well, why would I have too many blood vessels? If you gain weight, it takes an extra mile of blood vessels to feed each pound of excess fat. They're little tiny blood vessels, but it's going to take more pressure to pump the blood around there. So if you gain 25 kilograms or 55 pounds over your ideal body weight, your risk of hypertension goes up by nearly 3 times, 265%. On the other hand, just losing weight, you can reverse that. It's pretty dependable. And so eat good food. Eat for strength. I mean, you don't have to have any fear of starvation. It's an important part of your life is eating good food. Or not eating. What do you mean? Well, fasting 1 day a week may be effective, more effective than many pills. I had one lady, she had very high blood pressure. Seriously, 180 over 120, and nothing seemed to bring it down. We were worried that she might have a endocrine tumor, like in her pancreas. But finally we decided, let's try an extended fast. Along about day 5, the blood pressure finally broke, and it came down, and it stayed down. And then fasting 1 day a week after that is very effective. Another study looked at fresh fruits and vegetables as a way of lowering blood pressure. It was a fascinating study, and I cite it here not just for its impact on blood pressure, because that was very good, and for its impact on losing weight, but for something else that surprised the researchers and surprised and delighted me. And that is this. On a 6-month fresh fruit and vegetable diet, these people lost 8 pounds and pretty much normalized their blood pressure. But in the discussion, the researchers said serendipitously, 80% of those in this study who smoked or drank alcohol abstained spontaneously. I'm like, what? Because, 12-step programs are fortunate if they can get 25% to stop drinking. And here people on a good diet were able to stop. I mean, they chose to stop. I mean, the researchers probably were not delighted about this, because if you throw in an extra change, it's like you mess up the study. It could be a confounder, as they say. But yeah, you get on a good diet and a lot of good things happen. I mean, this original diet. Thou openest thine hand and satisfiest the desire of every living thing. With what? The original diet. Like what? Well, fruits, grains, nuts, seeds, vegetables. Genesis 1:29 and 3:18, the original diet. I mean, in heaven, what are you going to be eating? Won't be eating lamb, neither will lions. The lion will lay down with the lamb. And so when you get to heaven, it'll be vegetarian, there'll be a lot of fruit from the tree of life. Well, people should have good blood pressure on that kind of diet. Now, let's talk about lifestyle habits. We've talked about diet. I'll throw a little diet in as we go still, but we've been talking about diet. Now we're going to talk about lifestyle. First, I want to point out the impact of high blood pressure on different organs of your body. Your heart, it does not do well with high blood pressure. It increases heart disease. It increases the likelihood of having a heart attack. It increases the likelihood of having plaque in your coronary arteries. It increases the likelihood of having an imbalance in the muscles of your heart. There's a lot of troubles for the heart of having to overwork like that. Then there's your brain. Stroke and Alzheimer's increase. Yeah, that's not something everybody wants. And just because you had high blood pressure. And then there's your eyes. Macular degeneration. You can't see right in the middle where you're trying to look. You're just having trouble because all the cells that are supposed to give you that image have been damaged by high blood pressure. And then there's your kidneys. I had a classmate in medical school. Never could get his blood pressure down, lost his kidneys, had to have a kidney transplant. And he was a doctor. Imagine that. So, those are the organs that are particularly affected. I mean, there's more, but I'm picking on the most prominent and important organs. Now let's talk about things that will raise your blood pressure instantly. Coffee. Caffeine. What does caffeine do? It tightens up your blood vessels, as we talked about earlier, and it makes your blood pressure go up. This happens instantly, and over time it will be permanent. And so you don't want caffeine if you're already having high blood pressure, or if you want to avoid high blood pressure. Then there's tobacco. Very similar story. Non-smokers have a 10% lower risk of developing high blood pressure. Alcohol, the more you drink, the higher your blood pressure goes. There's a close relationship. We call it a linear relationship between how much you drink and how high your blood pressure goes. Well, there is something good to drink. I know we started out the talk with this, but water is very important. People who drink more water have much more fluid blood. Your heart would rather pump around nice, clean blood than blood that's too thick. I liken thick blood to like mud. Your heart does not want to pump mud around. And how much water should I drink? Well, sort of depends on how big you are, or if you're male or female. It sort of depends on how much activity you're involved in. It depends on the temperature. But the U.S. government found out by a bunch of studies that a man should get 3.7 liters per day, or nearly a gallon. That not only includes what you drink as water, but what you drink as other fluids and what you eat with your meals. And by the same figuring, a woman should get 2.7 liters, or about 3.5 quarts. And so, well, let's look at a big graph here to show the impact of higher temperature. Across the bottom we have Celsius. If you're up here at 40 Celsius or 104 at the top Fahrenheit, you better be drinking lots of water, especially if you're very active. But if it's way down at the bottom there at 15 Celsius or 59 Fahrenheit, well, you can take it more easy. Maybe you can get by with 2 quarts of water in the day. So it's sort of, well, how would I know? How would I know I get enough? Well, you check your urine. When you pee, if your urine is fairly clear, then you're probably keeping up. If you're getting quite a bit of yellow color in your urine, you might want to drink a little more water. Now, for people who already have hypertension for whatever reason, something that's helpful to add to that water is lemon. People who add lemon to their water have a much better effect at lowering blood pressure. I had a person who used to travel with me and help me with my lectures, and his mother called him. Again, somebody with really high blood pressure. She says, "Oh, son, I've got a blood pressure of 180 over 140. Shall I go to the emergency room?" He said, "Well, let me come over and let's just look through some of my books and see what we can come up with." And he looked through his books, and sure enough, here it was. Lemon water for high blood pressure. And so she started drinking the juice of 1 lemon in the first water of the day, which she drank before breakfast. She was on 3 blood pressure medications. She got off all 3 blood pressure medications. After a year of drinking lemon water, she kind of got tired of it. It could be a bit hard on your teeth. You'd probably want to brush your teeth after you did that, or rinse them good. Anyway, she got tired of the lemon, and so then he went back and looked in some books and found out that there's a good herb that'll do a similar thing, and that is hawthorn berry. And so she started drinking hawthorn berry tea. So there you go. Now, we said that one of the keys to good blood pressure is good circulation. And if you want good circulation, if when you get up in the morning you do a cool sponge bath and scrub your skin thoroughly, it'll help your circulation. I mean, it's as good as a coffee, in my estimation, at waking you up and making sure your blood pressure is good and your nerves are awake. And then take a walk outdoors, and that'll give you fresh air and all these things. Walking outdoors has been found to help blood pressure. But when you go out there, you don't want to quite be like the lady pictured here. It's better to have long pants like the man pictured here. If you're out there and your extremities get cold, it works just like dehydration. It works just like the problems of stress. The cold chases the blood up your limbs. I mean, it's like the blood vessels all tighten up. You don't want blood down here. It's all going to get too cold. And so you end up with high blood pressure. You want to keep your limbs evenly clothed. In fact, I've seen the opposite problem. I had an individual came to me that wore heavy base layer, insulated underwear, long johns, thermal underwear year-round. During the summer, his blood pressure got way too low. We said, "Why are you wearing the thermal, long johns during the summer?" Well, we talked him out of it, and that helped to fix the problem. So you could lower your blood pressure just by adding more clothing to your limbs. Now, we have a lady pictured here outdoors, and exercise is good. Walking 10,000 steps or more per day, which would be about 5 miles, can lower your blood pressure by 10 points. Lifting weights, like this lady has a weight in her hand, 20 minutes on a resistance exercise circuit or lifting weights can lower blood pressure by 10 to 12 points. And so there's a lot of things you can do. And part of it has to do with your muscles getting too stiff. So if you exercise the big muscles in your body, stomach muscles, leg muscles, arm muscles, and keep them supple, keep them soft, keep them mobile, keep them so that they have a free range of motion, then the blood vessels won't get too tight, the blood vessels won't get too stiff, and your blood pressure comes down. Exercise is important. Another thing that will relax blood vessels, you probably know this, is you get out in the sun. You ever feel a bit almost faint when you're out in the sun for a long time? It can be the rise in nitric oxide, rise in serotonin, rise in different hormones in your body that are helping your blood pressure to come down. The sunlight literally makes the blood flow better in your blood vessels. It's an effect on the friction between the blood cells and the wall of the blood vessel. It's very interesting to see on a microscope. Sunlight is very helpful at giving you perfect circulation. It also lowers the inflammation in your body by increasing melatonin within the cells. Speaking of melatonin, if you're out late at night, after the sun goes down with lots of artificial light, you lose your melatonin, at least the nighttime melatonin. And so you don't want to be with blue light in your eyes, like TV screens, computer screens, cell phone screens, because it'll affect a lot of your life, a lot of your body, and it'll raise your blood pressure. Now, just mentioning tight bands, I mentioned it earlier. If you have a tight band around your waist, around your ankles, around your chest, then it restricts blood flow. And so if you want to have better blood flow, have looser clothing. There's also an impact as to how you breathe. If you're breathing largely from your shoulders, which isn't very effective, isn't very efficient, isn't very helpful, then you tend to have higher blood pressure. If you breathe, take full breaths from your diaphragm, your abdomen goes out when you breathe in and it comes in when you breathe out, then it changes the negative pressure in your chest for returning the blood to your heart in a positive way that helps lower blood pressure. Breathing correctly. Well, how do I know if I'm breathing correctly? I have people practice breathing by walking and taking breaths in slowly and breathing out slowly, because when you walk and you're upright, you tend to breathe correctly with your diaphragm. This brings us to our final section on the impact of mind on body. And I'm not saying this, saying that you're crazy or anything if you have high blood pressure. But we have to recognize that how we think and how we feel affects how our body is going to be in the way of health or symptoms. And so studies of big natural disasters, like an earthquake, a fire, big fires like we've had up and down the West Coast, has an impact. If we looked at the people in those areas where they've been impacted by these disasters, we find that more and more people, a larger number of people, come down with hypertension. Will it get better? I don't think you can expect the earthquakes to go away. They're going to get worse. And how do I know that? Well, if we look at Mark 13:8, for nation shall rise against nation. Haven't we seen that? And kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be earthquakes in divers places. And there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrows. So, don't expect the troubles to stop. Come up with a way of dealing with them. Well, how do I deal with them? Well, maybe you don't need to deal with them. You need to give them to somebody who can deal with them. And that's the Lord Jesus Christ. He says, do not start worrying. Where will my food come from? Or my drink? Or my clothes? These are the things that pagans are always concerned about. Your Father in heaven knows what you need, that you need all these things. Instead, be concerned above everything else with the kingdom of God and with what He requires of you, and He will provide you with all these other things. So, do not worry about tomorrow. It will have enough worries of its own. There is no need to add to the troubles each day brings. Matthew 6:31-34. And so let Him take it and you relax. It might help your blood pressure. And one of the things that He teaches is being forgiving. Studies in the medical literature show that a spirit of forgiveness has been shown to bring blood pressure down. It reminds me of Ephesians 4:32, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. A sign of having been forgiven is the ability to forgive. How relaxing is that compared to having to be always angry and frustrated and resentful? Freedom from resentment and guilt lowers blood pressure. Reminds me of Acts 24:16, and herein do I exercise myself to have always a conscience void of offense toward God and toward men. Wow. So, that's where you want to be. Now, another interesting study on blood pressure and religion was done at the University of Michigan. They were doing a big study to see what people believed and how it impacted their blood pressure if a loved one died. And so if they felt their loved one had a positive view of the afterlife, they had a lower blood pressure. Older adults who experienced the death of a loved one and who believed in a good afterlife are less likely to develop hypertension. On the other hand, if they didn't have any hope of the future or belief in a future, the blood pressure tended to go up. Fascinating, the impact of what you believe on your health. And it reminds me of a Bible text where Jesus discusses the afterlife. It says, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in the which all that are in their graves shall hear His voice, and shall come forth. Okay, so there's going to be a resurrection. They'll be in their graves until the resurrection. And what's the rest of the verse? They that have done good unto the resurrection of life. Wow, that will bring nice low blood pressure. They that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. Oh, okay, this doesn't sound like low blood pressure. And so, very interesting. Now, stress is often associated with big cities. Moving to a big city can raise your blood pressure by 23 points. Wow, that's a big increase. On the other hand, walking outdoors amongst trees and flowers and the wonders of God's great nature lowers blood pressure. It reminds me of Genesis 2:8, where we're told where man was originally planted. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden. And there He put the man whom He had formed. It's our ecological niche. It's where we belong. And when we live there, our circulation is good. Our blood is good. You know, Jesus often went out into the garden to pray. It's a good place to commune with God. They've done studies on what's called the awe experience. When you go outside and you look at the great expanses of some beautiful scenery, and you just witness the bigness of it all, and it promotes physical and mental health. You go to a scene that has a lot of beauty, and looking at something like this has been shown to improve humility. I mean, pride would tend to high blood pressure. Humility would tend to being more calm. And there was a U.S. president that oftentimes he'd take his aides outside the White House and look at the sky, look at the stars, and after a while he'd say, okay, that's small enough, and he and his aides would go inside, meaning that in looking at something bigger, he felt more humble, he felt more, well, his size. It's good to know your size, isn't it? And so people who have the awe experience have been found to have better health and healthier blood pressures. If it's big things like the sky and mountains and stars, it's one thing. That helps. Also looking at more intricate things, flowers and animals, birds. And when you look at these and you contemplate them and think about their importance to nature and God's creativity, it's helpful for your blood pressure. Studies show the effect of this. And even contemplating grand themes like the death of Christ for you. Greater love hath no man than this, and He laid down His life for His friends. And this can be a help to blood pressure, thinking about the future, the time when heaven will be our home, where eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love Him. In summary, letting hypertension go, avoid excess salt, meat, and processed sugar and fat. Eat a delicious whole plant-based diet high in fiber, minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants. Make weight control a habit. Avoid the pitfalls of tobacco, caffeine, and alcohol. Keep well hydrated with pure, vitalizing water. You might want to add a little lemon. 2, take regular time for enjoyable exercise in the awe of the great outdoors, far from traffic, pollution, and stressful crowds, where there's fresh air and good sunshine. And guard your sleep. You'll need it. Evaluate its quality for effectiveness. And then contemplate grand themes. Contemplate the bliss of heaven and the marvels of redeeming grace. Let God know you need Him to release you from stress, guilt, fear, and high blood pressure. And you can rely on Him for guidance as you come more into line with His original plan for diet and lifestyle. In summary, adopt a healthy diet and watch your blood pressure come down. Get a good lifestyle habit going that will ensure good circulation. And psychologically, you need rest, you need peace, and this will be reflected in a calm pulse, a steady heartbeat, and a healthy blood pressure. For a handout on this lecture, a written form to continue your study, go to our website, northernlightshealtheducation.com, and you'll see over there on the left-hand side a button there for presentation handouts. You'll find a handout there for this lecture. This has been another episode of Blueprint for Health and Healing, reversing disease from its foundation. Vigorous, healthy, natural blood pressure.